Okay, hello everyone. My screen froze in the end, so I actually did not see the last 10 minutes, I guess.
Oh,
So I hope it was a good movie. My name is Kwami Abdul-Bey. I'm the co-convenor of the Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement. Um, and tonight, the movie was Divided We Fall. And the goal was to bring people from different political persuasions together to have civil conversations. And it actually was mentioned in the chat at least twice about how civil these conversations were. And it makes me wonder, is that actually possible in this day and age, in this time? So the sponsoring organization for this movie was Braver Angels Central Arkansas. And we have Mary and Katie here today, along with myself. All three of us are members of Braver Angels Central Arkansas. And we want to talk to everyone about what this organization does, how it relates to what we just saw in the film, and what we can do here in Arkansas to replicate what we just saw in the film, because it's time that we started having these type of discussions. And with that, let me go ahead and I'll send it over to Mary. If you could just introduce yourself, and then you send it to Katie to introduce yourself, and then let's just have a discussion.
okay. Hi, I'm Mary Hunt. As Kwame said, I'm a member of Braver Angels. I've retired a little less than a year ago from being in the banking and information technology field for over 40 years. And but I've been interested in a lot of peace and justice issues and got heavily involved a few years before I retired, and then added Braver Angels as I think one critical piece of a critical piece of creating peace, I could say. Okay, Katie.
Hi, everybody. I want to start by thanking everybody for joining us tonight. It was a great movie, great event. It's good to be here with you all. I'm Katie Zakrzewski, and I'm the Braver Angels of Central Arkansas Red Co-Chair. Mary is the Blue Co-Chair. Um, I was a graduate of the University of Arkansas at Little Rock in May of 2020, so I'm coming up on my 1 year anniversary since I graduated. It was a bit lackluster with the pandemic, but I was a double major in criminal justice and anthropology, and realized towards the end of my junior year that I really had a knack for public policy, but didn't want to change my majors and start all over, so I just went ahead and finished. I'm currently a staff writer with AY Media Group, so anytime you see AY Magazine or Arkansas Money and Politics, feel free to pick it up and you'll see something from me in there. Nowadays, I focus a lot on lobbying, a lot of bipartisan work. I'm also active with the Republican Party across Arkansas. But this is really my meat and potatoes, getting people together to get a different point of view, and to bring people closer and to realize that we have a whole lot more in common than we don't. So it's really good to be with you all tonight.
I'm looking at one of the persons in the chat that I'm really intrigued by the comments is Jack. And Jack has made some really profound comments. And I guess they're profound because he's speaking out of my head, because me and Jack think a lot. And he's wondering, uh, is what we just saw real? Is that even possible? What, how do we get there?
Well, we do have, I know it's possible because this isn't the only example I've seen of this. There are dozens of examples within Braver Angels where they've brought people together with remarkably different views, and just kind of as we here represent different genders, age groups, colors of skin. We're all, and there's so many people, I think, like us, we just don't hear them, that want to listen and understand. So yeah, I've seen it over and over again in a number of Braver Angels events, and they've got a number of videos too that you can see similar.
I feel like as somebody in media, I'm almost obligated to say that media thrives on when people hate each other. And we kind of saw somebody mention that in the film where they were like, okay, well, this will probably make news headlines. Social media loves to push things that make us hate each other. And I think that's true. If anybody's ever browsed the comments section of literally anything even remotely controversial, I swear some of these people show up just looking to argue with people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that when, like we do with Braver Angels, when you really sit down and get to know a person as a person, you know, why do they personally feel this way? What experiences have they had that are unique to them that have helped mold their perception of a certain issue? You've got to reconcile that as being valid, even if it might contradict with your own view, because both of your personal experiences are valid. But I think that nowadays people get so wrapped up in rhetoric and in hating each other that their conversation doesn't progress to the point of getting to know somebody's personal story or getting to know why they personally feel that way. I think that, you know, looking at somebody as an equal human being is probably a really good start to finding common ground. And that's something that we really emphasize at Braver Angels, getting to know why people personally feel the way that they do.
Something that I heard earlier this week in a discussion that I was in is that one of the problems with our political system today is that we're in a nation where we believe that one semester of civics in the ninth grade is all you need to be a good citizen. And uh, how does that type of mentality feed into where we're at right now?
That's interesting. There is a lot of misinformation out there, misthoughts. I myself find looking up, Googling all kinds of things like what happens if a president is removed and a vice president takes over, and then who's vice president? You know, just little things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether I know some of those facts coming all the time or not may not be the issue as much as understanding how our government truly works to be able to question what we hear in the media. I think the whole media, you mentioned it, Katie, and they mentioned it, what we're listening to is so polarizing, and better education, I believe, helps us be better at questioning what we're hearing in the media. And but that's about my only thoughts there on the government classes, Kwami.
I think to expand on your point, Mary, I think that if we take that even a step further, we might be electing people who really don't know a lot more about government than we do. They know a lot more than we do. And I think that somebody made that point in the film that was really good. That why aren't we asking more questions about what about how the people that we've elected, how adequately they're doing their job? I feel like, and I almost feel like this kind of sounds conspiracy theory-ish, but I almost feel like a lot of media pushes us to fight with each other to distract us from questioning the people that we've elected. I think that, you know, we're so busy squabbling with you and I and each other that we're not going, okay, how much of this federal funding went towards an unnecessary expense, or went towards a car, or went towards a first class plane ticket? So I feel like if we actually banded together as Americans, we'd be able to hold the people that we elect more accountable, because our eyes would be on them, because that's how it should be anyway. We should be researching who we elect, how government works. We should be taking more than one semester of civics to figure out how this all works and who's best for the job.
Yeah, well, even in the film, one of the participants talked about how she only listened to NPR, and how the others only watched Fox. So it's yes, it is a little bit of the media, but it's our decision to put on blinders and only listen to certain aspects of the media, and to actually, first and foremost, put trust in the media instead of trust in ourselves. What is that along the lines of what you're talking about, Katie?
I think partially, I think that as somebody in media, and this is really interesting because I would cover events where there are 10 other journalists in the room from different sites, different outlets. I would write my article and publish it and thought, okay, well, that was pretty, I don't think that anybody could read that and guess, okay, what my alignments are. I would go and read everybody else's and I'd be like, are we even in the same room? I don't necessarily think that it should be up to people to have to go read 3 to 4 or 5 different news sources to get a good idea of what's happening. I think that media shouldn't be skewing things in the first place. I don't think a company should have a lean either way. But as long as media companies do, I think that, like you said, people should take it upon themselves to read even sources that might not agree with their viewpoint. As some of them said, so that you can better understand what some of the arguments are for the other side, why people think the way they do, what are they citing when they believe things like this. I think that because when he said that, I went through my news folder on my phone to see what all apps I got my news from, and I had anywhere from Fox to CNN to BBC to News 360 to a couple local places, a couple national places, and I'll get alerts from them all day, and I'll compare them to each other, and I get the Atlantic and the National Review, and I'm like, there's very little in common past the headline and all of these different sources. So I think that media as a whole needs to do a little bit better job of not being biased, but until we reach that point, people should diversify what they consume in terms of news.
Yeah, well, I don't believe. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, please go
I
ahead.
was saying I don't think media is going to solve itself ever. I don't see that coming about the way we are right now. But I think it has more to do with our own choices. And part of that is money. Money seems to be at the root of a lot of these issues. Back when I was a child, before you guys, well, at least Katie was born, there's the media was usually the lost leader. They had on the only 3 channels I could watch on TV. The newspapers I know always had somewhat of a bent, but but when that expanded, and we must have thousands of, especially if you count all of our digital inputs, everything's or most of it is money. What makes money? It's sensationalism. And what's sensational? It's something that makes you mad, something that makes you angry. A little bit of, hey, isn't that cat video cute? And listen to that baby laugh. But that's the biggest is what's going to make you mad. So it's up to us, really, I think, way more than the news. And like you, Katie, of course, you're in the business. Myself, I listen and flip back, especially when things happen, like at the Capitol at the beginning of this month, and a number of things during the campaigns last year. Because of Braver Angels, I've been flipping between mainstream media or CNN, Fox News, and BBC and other world outlets. I want to hear what the international are saying, and it has really opened my eyes to what's out there. But I don't take anybody's facts anymore.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the word facts, because that's exactly where I wanted to go. In the video, they talk about the difference between truth and the difference between fact. How does Braver Angels Central Arkansas bring the citizenry into this discussion to be able to just differentiate between what is fact and what is truth?
It's tough without trust for anything. I think the continuation of what we've been talking about and what they did in this video, listening to each other, but convincing somebody that your facts are your facts and their facts are not facts. I don't know that Braver Angels is going to solve that.
Well, is a fact debatable?
Yeah, it's your definition, right? Katie, what's your thought on that?
Man, this almost feels like a slippery slope, because I feel like if you had asked me like 5 years ago, I'd have been like, oh, the fact is a fact and you can look it up and everybody will agree with it. And now it seems like fact is often skewed with the interpretation.
I'm not hearing.
I'm not either.
I'm not hearing you,
we
Katie.
can't hear you.
We lost your sound.
Okay, am I back?
Yeah, you're back now.
Okay, whew. Okay, I was like, man, okay. But I feel like you almost have to go 3 degrees out whenever you hear about a fact to hear, okay, where does the fact come from? Can this fact be found in multiple sources? What is the bias of whoever is reporting this as fact? Like, is this from a published journal? And even then, when you do fact checking sites, it's like, okay, well, what kind of bias do these fact checking sites have across multiple sites? So it's so hard. Every day I feel like I do this whenever I get ready to write an article. I was like, what is a fact? And even if it passes the test of being a fact, I know that somebody will dispute it because they've got a bad source, or because they saw a Facebook video that somebody made in their basement saying that that's not a fact. So, I mean, yeah.
Well, what color is the sun?
Right. Yeah, I just always tell people to do their research.
Because if I were to tell you that the sun was purple, is that a disputable fact, or is it a fact that the sun, we perceive it as yellow?
Well, I've never been to the sun, so based on I have to say, and I do not personally have any color blindness that might impact how I view the sun. But from where I currently stand, when it is noon, the sun does not appear to be purple. Maybe for some people it is, but I think the general consensus that it is that it is an accepted fact that the sun is yellow. So.
Indeed. Well, Mary, tell us about With Malice Towards None. What is this initiative, and why is it important in this day and time?
Well, With Malice Towards None started, the name comes from President Lincoln addressing people during the extreme divides of the Civil War. We can disagree, but let's not have malice towards the other. Let's not be angry with the other. And so we are working as Braver Angels to bring groups together. We're offering workshops to various groups and teams to get together and have these one-on-one conversations. A lot of it kind of similar to what the PBS did in the experiment of Divided We Fall. And actually this coming February 8th, 2021, we actually have a Malice Towards None workshop that we're going to be presenting for anybody that wants to drop in on us on that one. But
how would they do that?
I've got the links. The Braver Angels, braverangels.org. Not quite sure, Kwami, if we can show that, but there's braverangels.org/Arkansas.
Okay.
Is our site there. And there's should be a link there for A Malice Towards None.
It should be on our events page, and Mary has talked about this. What's great about Braver Angels is that even though with Malice Towards None might just be the name of our workshop, I think that really is the theme of the organization overall. And you'll see in a lot of the training exercises that we do, a lot of our exercises where we get with people who might have opposing views, is that we really emphasize civility, being polite, being respectful, exploring out other people's viewpoints and inviting them to learn a little bit more about your own. So I think that even if you do disagree with somebody, you can do so respectfully and kind of learn a little bit more about why they feel the way they feel. And that really is the core of Braver Angels. It's not to change anybody's opinion. It's not to make somebody think like you. It's not to have them completely change what their voter registration is by the time you're done talking. It's to politely explore why you feel the way you do and why they feel the way that they do. And I think that when we reach across the divide and do a little bit more exploring like that, we realize that we have a lot more in common than we think, and we start to think of ourselves more as Americans as opposed to party, gender, race, etc.
We also have, in addition to being able to listen and have respect for people who think differently of us than us on either a single topic or a myriad of topics, we also have polarization workshops where we try to keep each other in check. A lot of times we become polarized and run down the rabbit hole of condemning the other amongst peers of ours who may think the same. And so that's another danger besides listening to the same types of media outlets, feeding on each other and having what can lead to disrespect for the other, whatever other viewpoint that is. So some depolarization workshops and some research there on that can help us keep each other in check. So in other words, if somebody's being disrespectful to another, to someone that's perceived to be on the other side, whatever that other side is, someone on the same side could say, hey, wait a minute, you've got to have a relationship with people to do this. But, I've been checking into that about the other side, and I've learned something different here. And you can help turn around or at least build respect and understanding from people in your own tribe.
And when you say the other side, you're talking about, just like in the video, reds versus blues, basically, correct?
Yes, but it's nothing simple. Not every red believes all the same and has all the same issues that's at their heart. Not every blue. Purple, just by definition, is a blending of red and blue. Which red and which blue bleeds in to become purple. So I think there can be with big deals like those that were for Trump and those that were for Biden. But it also can be just one issue, like let's just talk gun control. And you don't necessarily need to be red or blue to have an opinion on that, or on hospitalization for all, and those issues can be. A lot of times it helps just to do it with one issue.
And what do you because in Braver Angels, everyone has to essentially pick a side. What side do you pick in Braver Angels?
I picked the blue side.
Explain why.
Because I have I've always leaned left in a lot of my different viewpoints. I really am more in the center. I believe I'm more in the center. I see both sides. I'm married to someone who's a conservative, and we have lots of great conversations, true conversations. And but I do. I'm registered Democrat. I do not always vote for the Democrat candidate. I vote for the person, not the party.
That's good to
But
hear.
yeah, I've never. And my father, who was dyed in the wool Democrat, taught us kids as young growing up that you never vote for the party. You've got to be your own person and think your own way. But I've got a very strong what do I want to say, Christian side, my religion as well, that I am more, the immigration issue, for instance, love thy neighbor. I believe that, that's trying to do something with immigration. I'm always leaning towards how do we be kinder? How do we bring more people in? How do we do it right? As opposed to how do we keep them out? So I'm more on the, I believe, the left side of that particular issue with those kinds of thoughts. I don't know, Kwami.
Well, hearing you, I'm like, okay, so there's more than one different type of Christian, because the other
Yeah,
Christians would
exactly.
say no. Katie,
Exactly.
so you're red, huh?
Yes. That's the
Explain that one.
Yeah, so I'm what I call more of a magenta, which means that I'm red, but I do have some blue ideas. I'm also in a rather unfortunate position as a red because and we won't get into it. I'm a former Trump supporter, don't support him now, but I'm still conservative. So for a lot of my friends, they hate me because I'm conservative. My family doesn't like that I'm not conservative enough. So I'm just enough of everything to get heat from all sides. So that's pretty neat. But for me, I was raised with conservative values. I was raised Catholic as well. I was sixth generation Polish Catholic. So a lot of those values for me were kind of ingrained in me growing up. But like Mary said, I don't believe in voting a straight party ticket because I think that's pretty narrow-minded. It means that you put anybody up there as long as they have the same letter as you behind their name. I think that you need to look into the person. For me, as Mary said, there are also parts of me that are blue. So whenever we're gonna do a demonstration, like me with another red, we have to figure out, okay, what are we both red on? Because I'll be like, well, I'm red on this, and then the other red will be like, well, I'm kind of blue on that, and I'm like, okay. So we've got to go down the list. So it's really really interesting to see how like Mary said, like, okay, what blue values do we have? What red values do we have? But ultimately, how do we categorize ourselves? So I think that it goes to show that, two parties probably isn't enough for a lot of people, because I don't think that it adequately gives us enough room to not put ourselves in a box. I think that a lot of people categorize themselves, red or blue, but I think that we just demonstrated that there's a lot more to it than that, and we probably shouldn't confine ourselves in that way.
Well, you just categorize yourself as a former Trump supporter. What is it that led you in the beginning to be a Trump supporter? And then what led you to reverse that support?
So I had just turned 18, and it was an election year in 2016. I'm 22 now. And at that time, I was a huge Trump supporter because I was like, okay, this is somebody who's a businessman. So he has the negotiation skills required to figure out what is economically best. He has the experience needed to close any economic loopholes that have been left open by people who may not be as versed economically as him. He's rich, so he can't be bought. A lot of politicians tend to be bought. We mentioned that earlier. Kind of abusive money. And I, going into it, was like, well, he might not have the political experience needed, But surely when he gets into the White House, he's going to see, okay, this is how politics works. I'm just going to take my economics background and apply it to that. That's not what happened. He didn't negotiate with anybody. I think it was around the midterm that I was like, okay, this is not working. If anything, he's being more disrespectful now when things don't go his way. And I think that like the months leading up to November, the writing was more or less on the wall for me by then. I had done, and this really opened my eyes for me. I had done an in-depth op-ed piece leading up to the final months of the election. And I was like, okay, let's sit down. Let's see what makes a conservative a conservative. So I was like, let's harken back to the man himself, Mr. Ronald Reagan, and kind of sat down and wrote out a list of everything that Reagan thought was important to being a conservative and to the party at that time. Then I sat down and I wrote out a list of everything that Trump thought was important to being a Republican at this time. Nothing matched. Nothing on the list was the same. And so I was sitting here and I was dumbfounded, and I wrote an op-ed about it, a shorter version, and published it in the paper. And I was like, okay, if we're really conservatives, we need to go back to Reagan era conservatism. We need to reinvestigate what our values are, the meanings behind them. Because Reagan was really about solution-based immigration. He even condemned building a wall in a debate during the primary with George H.W. Bush. He was like, that's a dumb use of funds. We need to be working on getting these people quickly made into citizens instead of penalizing them for wanting to come here because we're a great country. We need to get them educated. We need to get them whatever they need so that they can contribute to our society. I was like, that's brilliant. Then on the flip side, you've got Trump, who as of November 4th had built 896 miles of wall along the southern border. I was like, these directly contrast. And so when I wrote that op-ed, kind of calling conservatives to wake up a little bit, hey, let's go back to Reagan era conservatism, I had people come out of the woodwork and they were like, Trump is a real Republican and you're a liberal. And I was like, I just called Reagan the head of conservatism and I'm a liberal now? It just blew my mind, because that was the conversation that I had with a lot of people. And I was like, what? How has somebody managed to convince so many people that he is the pinnacle of the party now? So then I started looking a lot at conservatives like Mitt Romney, who, when he had ran for president, was accused of not really being representative of the common man. And I'm really impressed with his growth and the growth of conservatives like him, who from day one have stuck to their guns, who've been like, this is not true conservatism. They took criticism and they molded themselves to it. And I only know this because it was a personal interaction, and I'll wrap up so that we can talk about other stuff. But they had accused Mitt Romney of, you don't fly commercial. You're not like the average man. You waste money on first-class plane tickets. I was sitting in the Ronald Reagan Airport in Washington, D.C. I had just finished lobbying in February of last year. It was, the only reason I remember this is because it was the day of the State of the Union, and right before that was the impeachment. No, it was the day after the State of the Union, and it was the impeachment vote. Mitt Romney came through the airport, walked through the airport, right where I was sitting, because he was flying commercial, and people just flocked him, and they're like, how are you going to vote? How are you going to vote in the impeachment? And he just kept going. And I was like, this is somebody who literally walked through all of us just like an everyday American to do a big thing. Everybody knew what was going to happen. And it was really impressive. So I think that for me as a conservative, if we really harken back to days of Reagan conservative, that's why I'm hoping Trump just starts his own party, so that we can just go back to like being Republicans who do dumb little stuff, instead of like arguing about whether or not January 6th was justified. If we can just stop that and go back to classic conservatism, I'd be in hog heaven. So that is the lore behind, I guess, my voting record. And that, I hope that kind of answers your question.
And Mary, January 6th was when you regretted voting for Trump, right?
Yeah. That could be a story, but no, you would never have found me voting for Trump either in 2016 or in 2020. Never going to happen. And for him, Trump, the disruptor, I thought might be welcomed back when he did win. I'm like, okay, you know, this is not the way. I was really looking forward to our first female president and what have you back then, but maybe someone from the outside, not in government, can help. Back to my father, who's been gone for 12 years now, but he's a very big influence in my life, and he was in small town politics. He had always, when anyone had said you need a businessman and to run our country or to run our city or what have you, and my father always said, you know, government isn't a business, and it's to him that would not work. You need someone that understands politics. But I thought, boy, this time, okay, let's see what Trump the Disruptor can do. And yeah, from his very first day.
Well, both of you were fooled because Trump isn't a businessman.
He
Trump is
isn't
an
a
entertainer. He's an entertainer, and if you get an opportunity, watch Michael Moore's new documentary, Fahrenheit 11/9, and he talks about how even Trump's initial announcement that he was running for president was a hoax, and he wasn't running. He didn't do it to run for president. He did it because his show was canceled on NBC. So he did it to get his job back on NBC. But people like, he's running for president. And then he said, wait a minute, I can do something with this since people actually believe it. And so he ran with it. And he didn't expect to win. He won by accident. Actually, if we start talking, and I know one of you, I think it was you, Katie, talked about, let's not get into conspiracies or whatever, but the voting fraud actually is what put Trump in office.
The what?
Voting fraud put Trump
in office. Voting fraud put him in office.
Yes. The same fraud that he complained about got him out of office is the same fraud that put him in office.
Yeah, I had some of those opinions myself, but again, I'm not really sure who to believe.
Yeah,
but I think there's more. Yeah, there's voting fraud, and there's back to the media, the dissemination through social media of what I've considered as lies that people believed. And so I have not been convinced of actual fraud, like votes changed, but I'm not naive enough to say that couldn't have happened. But I do believe that there's been focused by a number of different areas around the world, focused social media feeds that have hit certain groups of people, that has created more of this divide and created the disbelief of what I believe are facts, of what I believe is the truth.
Well, let me ask you this. Both of you have mentioned what happened on January the 6th. And when we talk about the initiative of Braver Angels with malice towards none, that harkens back to the days of President Abraham Lincoln and how he dealt with the aftermath of the Civil War. Biden, in his inauguration speech, mentioned that we're currently dealing with an uncivil war. And what happened on the 6th of January, I personally won't use the word insurrection. I don't believe that it amounted to that terminology. I will use the word lynch mob because it had a lot of the trappings of our historical lynch mobs. But how can a nation have malice towards none, and also have accountability?
I don't think those two things go together necessarily, or are mutually exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Accountability, you can have malice towards somebody and still be accountable. I believe that it's the malice, it's the violence towards others in words as well as in actions. I think the violence in words that has been prevalent for a long time, but I think especially so in the last 4 years, has really led to the physical violence. But make no mistake, the whether it's physical or not, the hurt that has been inflicted towards words, I think is as damaging as anything has been physically.
So when you have the situation, Katie, like you talked about, that Trump was not a real conservative, and then you have all these words that Mary's talking about. Once words get out there, they're almost impossible to bring back in. You know what I'm saying? So, how does the work of Braver Angels rectify that problem of those words are already out there? What happened has already happened. Where do we go from here?
I think that Braver Angels is really good at kind of doing this in a step-by-step process. I think at first you start by acknowledging that, yes, those words are out there and they're out there for forever and there's nothing you can do to make them go away. But I think the next part of that is acknowledging that, okay, now that those words are out there, I've changed as a person. Maybe these things are wrong. If what I've said is wrong because new information has come to the light, because I've been able to get somebody else's perspective, and I realize that something that I've said is wrong, okay, then now we acknowledge that what you've said is wrong. And Braver Angels really does a great job of going the extra mile to have you sit down with somebody that you might have said something bad about before because you didn't know better, or because you hadn't talked with somebody like that, because you didn't have any experiences with somebody who was different than you, somebody that you might have had a different opinion about. Braver Angels is really, really good at sitting people down and getting a different perspective. We had kind of mentioned earlier, and Mary answered this really, really well. How can you have malice towards none, but also have accountability? I think that if you have malice towards none, you have to hold people accountable. If you're going to promote this idea of we can't hate each other, we can't attack each other because we don't share the same beliefs, we have to be able to call out, hey, that's exactly what you did. That's wrong. Don't do it again. I think that is truly kind of setting the platform of having malice towards none. And I think that Braver Angels does a really great job of doing that by showing you, okay, here's how we don't discuss things when we don't agree with each other, but here's how we do discuss things when we don't agree with each other. So I think that by, I think that by, like giving examples of what you don't do with examples of what you do, Braver Angels does a really good job of making you hold your own self accountable, but then moving you towards having malice towards none.
That's wonderful. I really appreciate the way both of you took those answers and tied them all together and giving everybody a little gift of Braver Angels Central Arkansas. Let's go ahead and let's end this by talking about how the people that are watching can become active participants in Braver Angels Central Arkansas. What do they need to do and how do they go about doing it?
So I would say that if you're interested in joining Braver Angels of Central Arkansas, Mary had mentioned that website earlier, and that's braverangels.org. /Arkansas, or even just going to braverangels.org will help you figure out, okay, what's my region? Where do I go from here? Once you've kind of browsed the website, got a feel for everything, you're really seeing the things that we've talked about here, about bridging the divide, about having malice towards none. If you choose to get involved with us, you can click on our state, and it'll give you all the chapter info that you need to either get into contact with any of us if you have any questions, or if you like what you see, you'll be able to register through the website and become a member. And then we can get you into training. We can get you to come to some of our events. And we've got a bunch of cool events planned for the rest of the year, especially for this half of the year. Since Mary and I are both on the executive committee, we're still hammering out the details with our state's leaders. But stay tuned on the website for any and all updates. Or like I said earlier, our contact info is there. So if you've got questions about us or about what we do, you'll be able to reach out to us there, and we can get you wherever you need from there.
And Mary, the annual membership fee is $200 a year, right?
And write that check out to Mary Hunt. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's $12. $1 a month is all that's needed to become a member of Braver Angels and have all kinds of type email, however you choose to get information about all of the events. There's also free training out there. There's a 40-minute skills training that I recommend to everybody. And it's usually a prerequisite to a lot of the to some of the different sessions as well. It's an online skills training, it's called out there. If you would go out to the website, it's braverangels.org. I'm looking at on my other screen here, /online/skills-training, but you'll find it if you get out there to the Braver Angels, and it has some just on your own. You can go out there and see some examples. They've got some videos. They have questions. You can identify yourself as red or blue, and you can take both sides if you want to. All the training's the same. It's just the examples are a little bit different, based with a red bent or a blue bent on them.
And they also have a lot of really cool stuff like workshops and debates. And I'm a sucker for debates. I was in debate team in high school. So to watch people, who can be really, really cordial and then go, okay, now we're going to debate an issue. I'm like, here we go. And they'll debate it hard. And then, but the best part is when they finish, they can be like, okay, I really like that point that you made. I didn't think of that, or stuff like that. It really is about being cordial and getting to know more about other people. Respect
for everyone. I've got, I firmly believe that I do love everybody. I don't love what everybody says or what everyone does, and I will that back to your accountability. I will call that out when possible in a respectful way, but respecting everybody is key to all of this, and to be able to working together. If we can't work together, we're not going to solve these huge problems. We can't stay on two sides of gun control and two sides of immigration forever. We'll never get to any type of solution that's going to help us as this country. So besides just lowering our blood pressure and being able to understand the other, I mean, to me, the ultimate goal is to get some progress going towards these really big problems in our country.
All right. I'd like to give each of you an opportunity to give a 30-second close.
I think I just gave mine.
All right, there you go, Mary. Being efficient. Katie, you have anything you want to add to what she just said before we close out?
Yeah, I think I'll just say that in the months ahead, no matter what your alignment is politically, just keep an open mind. Take this as an opportunity for a blank slate. Even if the outcome wasn't what you were hoping for, try to see ways that you can contact people to work on compromises, whether it's public policy, to work on lobbying, to work on voter registration, to work on events in your community. And really seek out the humanity in other people. Seek common ground instead of differences. And I always tell people, put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Understand where they're coming from. And that doesn't just apply to Braver Angels. That should apply to all of life. but especially in the next few months as critical decisions are made in the new presidency and in our country.
All right. And just for full disclosure, I too am a member of Braver Angels Central Arkansas. And I think I got voluntold that I'm a purple on the executive committee. Is that correct? Do you guys remember that?
Yes, we're moving towards making that official, Kwami. I just sent out a change to our charter today on that.
Yeah, and purples, they don't care about reds or blue. All right. Thank you, guys. It's been a wonderful night. It was a wonderful film. And we just want to make sure that we all are together in making Central Arkansas and Arkansas as a whole a much better place for our children, our grandchildren, and our cats. Good night.
Good night.
Right.